We are feeling something unaccustomed in recent years, joy. And as Kamala Harris says, we are not going back.
Not going back.
MOMocrats MOMochat, part of the Demcast family of podcasts. I'm Donna Schwartz Mills with Karoli of crooksandliars.com. Aliza Worthington is off today. And oh my God, what a week.
What a week. What a great week it's been. It has been. It seriously has been. I have not had so much fun watching a political rally since the 2008, since Obama rallies.
But that's the feeling that we're all getting.
Yeah. But it's even better. I think I don't know, maybe because there's more at stake or whatever, but Tim Walz, can we just talk about Tim Walz? I told you he's my boo, and now he's our VP.
Now he's everybody's boo.
Yeah, he's everybody's boo. And I like on threads on social media, the Tim Walz big dad energy meme is like giving me life. I mean,
yes. You know, that noise you hear is not a prowler. It's just Tim Walz fixing your floorboards, you know.
Tim Walz will fix your headlight because he has a screwdriver in his car. Oh, they're great. I mean, it's fun. Like all of a sudden things got fun.
Yeah.
Right?
I think one of the reasons why this feels bigger than Obama is because, you know, even though the W years were atrocious, you know, because we were in this war that we shouldn't be in, you know, you didn't have this feel, it wasn't a dystopian nightmare in this country.
Right.
Whereas the last 9 years has been with washed up game show host, you know,
right,
somehow getting into the White House and destroying everything. There's this person who doesn't understand how anything works, this Putin puppet.
Right.
You know,
that part has been bad. I mean, for sure. That
dread, you know, and not just the dread. He was doing stuff, and then Project 2025. Oh my God, you know.
Right. No, all of that is true, and that's the distinction, is that John McCain was like a normal Republican back when there were some. Right. We wouldn't want him for president because he was also like into, you know, war and stuff like that. But,
and you know,
but you didn't have the sense that he's going to like sell us out to Russia or anything like that, right? You know, I mean,
no, I would trust him not to harm the nation,
right?
You know, not to fraternize with enemies, you know.
Right, exactly. I would
trust him with the nuclear codes, you know.
So, you know, when Obama's talking about hope and change in his thing, it's in the context of, you know, ending the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and maybe getting some healthcare reform done. And so it wasn't existential.
Right.
Now it's existential. Now it's like we must not, we just cannot allow him to win. And it's that simple. And
even when we win, the January 6th coup is continuing, and we're going to have to fight to get the vote certified.
Right. In certain states. So like in Georgia, for example, they're setting the table for that now. And I think they're trying in Arizona and some of these other places. But I do want to temper that a little bit by, you know, Mark Elias went on Rachel's show to kind of
Mark Elias,
right, and to kind of calm the waters on that, because people were the problem with the way that was presented is that it was suppressive. It made people feel like, well, why should I go and vote anyway if they're not going to certify it, right? And that so Mark Elias went on Rachel's show to explain why, yes, you must vote, that they know what's going on. They have lawyers ready to work on these things. It's not as if they don't know. It's not going to come as a surprise to them, right? So that's what we have to keep in mind. We just have to get everybody out to vote. And it's so exhilarating to have
people motivated to vote,
people joyful and happy. And so in Michigan, there was, let's see, in Pennsylvania, I think there was 10,000. Is that right? And in Michigan, it was 12,000.
And there's 20,000 in Arizona.
Yeah, that's what they're expecting. I think that arena holds 19,000.
And 25,000 have applied for tickets.
Right. So it's a huge, big, major deal. And it's exhilarating. I mean, it feels good. Like I actually on a Friday night want to, like fire up the computer and see what's going on, or
right.
And watch the live stream of it.
And one of the reasons Zoom scrolling, we have been joy scrolling.
Exactly. And with all due respect to Uncle Joe, who's still back here, and who, by the way, will be on the campaign trail starting next week for her.
That's right.
So I'm keeping Dark Brandon back here until I have my Kamala sign. But with all due respect
back there,
yeah, exactly. With all due respect to him, and God bless him for how he got her launched and everything, I don't. I just don't think that we would have had this kind of energy and enthusiasm without her being out there. And Tim Walz is just the perfect person, to be with her. So
I want to talk a little bit about the energy, because, the polls were tanking. People were saying they, didn't like it. They were double haters. The whole thing was all a drag. All we were getting was doom and gloom.
Right.
And then the minute we have the change, everything erupts.
Right.
And I got into it with someone online yesterday when I said I blame the voters for this.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was like we have to be in love with a candidate, or we're not going to play with you anymore. We're not going to go to the polling booth. We'll just hold our nose. Never mind that things are going well, and this has been a very good presidency. Right?
Right. No, I got a text yesterday from somebody saying, oh, well, now that Kamala is the candidate, I'm really excited to vote. I'm like, how could you not be excited to vote against Trump at the very least anyway? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that just, but I didn't say that. I just said,
that they're trying to sow between us. They're still trying to do it. And it's hard to tell who is legit and who is a troll and what's a bot. I got into it this morning with some woman who said that she's very upset about how Joe was treated. And she's going to vote this time, but it's the last time she's voting.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
What kind of a stupid thing is that? And
that strikes me as
baby out with the bathwater. Right. And she goes, well, never mind. I'm voting this time, but it's my last time. And I'm just going, okay, you're blocked.
Whatever. I mean, that kind of stuff is so stupid because, listen, you live in this country. You need to vote. It's really that simple. I can't tie people up and drag them to the polls, but I'm just saying you live in this country and you enjoy the benefits of this country. And you do that because people vote. And if you don't vote, then you're basically giving that away to Trump, right? I mean, you got it. If you want to vote for Trump, vote for Trump. If you want to vote for Kamala, vote for Kamala. If you want to vote for you're crazy, but okay.
I might have a dead bear carcass in the freezer for you, and you can get a brain worm.
Exactly. Oh. With a side of squirrel. Yeah. So, but don't stay home. Go and vote, because that's part of living in this country. That's part of what you have the freedom to do in this country. And it's that I feel like telling people that say that, right? That say, well, I'll vote this time, but I'm not going to vote ever again in my whole life. It's like, oh, okay. I mean, you're good with living in a totalitarian regime, is that what you're saying?
Converse of that, where now they want to do it.
Right. Well, so I was talking to somebody just for a second. Let's go to let me give the other side of that. I was talking to somebody today who just basically said that the debate, there was, what happened in that debate was unrecoverable. He could not come back from it, no matter what he did. And no matter how many press conferences he did that were great on foreign policy, no matter, how many other rallies or speeches or whatever, he could not come back from that debate. Because for 4 years, Fox News and Newsmax and OANN
the New York Times
were hammering on him being old and demented, right? So when he came off that way in the debate, for whatever the reasons were, he couldn't come back from it. So I can kind of understand that. I mean,
the debate was a disaster. We said so at the time.
Yeah. No, I know, but listen, I knew that there were just extenuating circumstances and no fact checking. I mean, there was just a zillion reasons why that debate was terrible.
Yeah.
He definitely should have just said, I'm sick, I can't debate, rather than going and doing what he did. But yeah, either way, it doesn't come,
that was a no-win situation.
Right.
At that point. So, and it was a gamble to do the debate. There are some who would argue that you shouldn't debate
at
Trump
all
in the first place.
Well, that was Nancy Pelosi's position.
Yeah. Was
basically, don't even elevate him. Don't even, make him legit by debating him. And to some extent, I'd agree with that. There was, and now we know that Kamala Harris is going to stick to the September 10th debate, and that'll be fine. She'll be fine. But it'll be another one of those, I'm Donald Trump and I'm going to lie about everything, and she's going to have facts, and it's not going to matter because everybody will have decided. So I know we just jumped around in our subjects here, but
okay. We always do. It's a free flowing conversation. Right. And, like yesterday, Trump trying to seize the attention by having his so-called press conference.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah. And the reporters do what they always do and just let him do it. And that's why debating him is such a difficult thing.
Right.
Because nobody does a fact check at the time. I mean, the National Association of Black Journalists, that's why they were late, because he balked at the idea of being fact checked.
Right.
And
and so the thing that was frustrating about yesterday was, number one, there were no follow-up questions to anything. And they just accepted, first of all, the questions themselves were BS. And by the way, if you haven't watched Lawrence O'Donnell absolutely ripping them for this, please go watch it. We have it on the site. He was great, and he was
so angry.
Oh, he was, and that was what made it great.
Yeah. The juxtaposition between the way Karine Jean-Pierre is treated and the way they treat Trump, it was just striking.
It was striking. And the way Biden was treated.
Right.
I mean, they're all out there shouting at him.
No respect.
None. And then you get this, Mr. Trump, how about, and just the most ridiculous questions. How do you feel about this? Nobody asked him about his convictions. Nobody asked him about, any policy really, other than what, on the mifepristone, which Garrett Hake asked him about from NBC News, he basically, whiffed on it, but made it clear that there's something bad would happen. There are things we can do, he said. And nobody was like, what things? What specifically are you talking about?
Yeah, they never, ever.
It's so gross. It's and the thing that I was mostly worried about yesterday was that after all of that they were going to yammer about it on cable news all day long. About all the questions. Yeah, we're going to fact check him. And then we're going to talk about how bizarre it was and yada, 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 yada. And the thing is that, you have this other candidate and her running mate who were at a UAW union hall, basically reaffirming their endorsement and
giving a speech of substance.
Right.
It wasn't the same stump speech that we saw at the rallies. This
one
was targeted for the union members.
Right. Well, and so tonight, going back to where we started with this, with the big Arizona rally, right? If you've noticed, if you watch these rallies, you see a couple of things. They're always a little different. There's always some new thing. So tonight, for example, I expect Tim Walz to say something to rip apart all these people trying to swift boat him.
Which needs to be done, because we can't let another military hero, somebody who gave 24 years
of his life,
to be called, to be accused of having stolen valor by, JD Vance,
JD Vance, who bills himself as somebody who was a combat reporter, but in fact was not. He was doing PR statements from a nice air-conditioned tent in Iraq.
Right.
So he was a PR guy, straight up. So, but he served. He was in a dangerous place. Yeah. It was Iraq. They could have at any time dropped a bomb on that. So, you have to give him credit. He was there for 6 months. Good for him. Don't take away from the 24-year veteran.
Right. And accuse him of something. Accuse him of cowardice.
Right.
How dare you?
Exactly. That's just wrong. And I mean, the dates are all like, I don't want to get into the nuts and bolts of everything, but the point is that he retired before they even considered sending that unit to Iraq.
Retired honorably.
Yeah.
And he gave 24 years before
he didn't have to. I mean, 20 was all he had to do, and he did an extra 4 years. So, the heck with that. And so, it's infuriating that they're doing that. But so I expect him to address that in his own Tim Walzian way, which is just, I mean, I can hear him saying this. He won't say this, but I could hear him say, mind your own fucking business. Right.
He will say damn instead of fucking.
But in his heart he's saying fucking.
I'm not sure he goes there.
Oh, he does.
Okay.
Yeah, he does.
Not in front of kids.
No, but Big Gretch said he can curse just as easily as she can. And that Michigan rally was something. I just want to say, I mean, Gretchen Whitmer was awesome at that. Like all the stars were there in Michigan, along with a whole shitload of people.
Well, they have to, because there are down ballot races. And if the presidential ticket is getting this kind of energy, it's going to lift up the rest.
Yeah.
And this is why Nancy Pelosi got involved. You know, aside from the fact that she didn't want to see Trump win. This was her concern, was keeping the House.
Right. Well, so just jumping to that for a second, there's been a lot of criticism of Nancy Pelosi.
A lot of criticism.
But, and I'm still not happy, by the way, about how this all happened. Okay. So don't assume that I am.
I know you're not.
I have to say that in, her case, she counts votes. That's what she does. That's how she knows what's winning and what's losing. So if she felt that she had to step in and intervene, it's because she counted the votes and said, no, we can't have this. And, that's why.
And the reason
she didn't call a bunch of people and say, tell them to step down. That's not true.
No.
So,
but the reason why she was a successful speaker is not because she was everybody's little grandma giving them milk and cookies. You have to be ruthless, and you can't just sit on your friendships with other politicians and say, well, it's all right. If you have a hard thing to say, you have to say it. And the people who are, so angry at her and calling for her to retire, which is hysterical because she's not speaker anymore.
Right. Exactly. Leave her alone.
She doesn't have power anymore. Other than that, people respect her.
Right.
And again, I just felt like I had to defend her, because you don't take this one thing that happened and was not handled nicely and say, well, I'm done with her. I don't care about all the things she did in the past. Aliza, you're here. We
Okay.
said you were off today. We're glad to have you.
Well, I, got my whatever taken care of. The chair guy left, so here I am.
Oh, great. You want to say something about Nancy Pelosi?
I think you guys are going to disagree with me.
No, that's okay.
Well, go ahead and say it.
Yeah.
And we'll tell you.
I don't know what I'm pissed at her.
And you represent a lot of Democrats right now. And
I
that's
think
what
she's
about.
being I think she's got an axe to grind for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, obviously I'm not privy to those, the inner workings of the those highest levels of government, but I am pissed at her. I don't know why she felt the need on national TV to go against everything Joe Biden himself was saying, which was that he's in the race and he's in it to stay. Why she felt the need to try to, put her thumb on the scale like that and say, well, when he decides, he'll let us know. He had clearly already decided. I don't know why she veered into that camp instead of saying he said what he said. And, and that is part, and that contributed so much to why did she feed into that frenzy like that and contribute to it and make everybody, well, Nancy Pelosi says that, then there must be something really, and why did she didn't have to do that.
Right.
She did not have to do that.
She could have kept it private.
She made a calculated political decision to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So before you came on, I basically said that I'm going to argue the other side of that, which is, and I'm still pissed at in general at how everybody took this, but
yeah,
having heard now from people who are voters but aren't political geeks that they figured that Joe Biden, as far as they were concerned, was done after that debate, stick a fork in him. They weren't going to vote. It wasn't that they were going to vote for Trump. They weren't going to vote. I think Nancy
Which is a whole matter entirely, but we
right
that.
Right. Nancy Pelosi counted the votes like she usually does and said, we need to do something. Something has to change because we're going to lose. And we're not just going to lose the White House. We're going to lose the House and the Senate too. And so that's
why do that on national TV instead of in private with Joe Biden? It seems so disrespectful. Why not go why not treat him like the friend she says she is or was and exert her influence quietly?
Maybe she tried.
Maybe she did, but clearly, Joe Biden is not speaking to her right now. And then she goes on and acts like she's she's so wounded by that. And, oh, I cry about it. And, I pray about it. And I feel like, give me a break.
Yeah.
You made a calculated move. You're acting like a bully. And then you want to come back to me and play like the devout Catholic girl. And, I pray about it every night and I cry and I hope this rift will be, but she caused it. I don't care if she, yes, I understand she wants Trump to never be in the White House again. None of us want that. Mm-hmm. Biden didn't want it.
Right.
And, the number of people who frankly, Lawrence O'Donnell took to the woodshed last night over it, or 2 nights ago, over their role in this whole thing. That's who Nancy Pelosi should have gone after. Instead of acting like she was all chummy with the folks on Morning Joe. No. And being like, oh, well, he'll tell us when he's ready. You know, he had told us over and over and over again by then. This was one debate. I can still do it. Everybody has a bad day. Period. The end. Just you wait. And he would come out. He had COVID. He came out. He destroyed the reporters. He spoke to reporters for an hour after NATO.
Mm-hmm.
He was clearly, you know. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not thrilled about Kamala Harris, and
Right.
that she hasn't, like,
The outcome
that she
has
hasn't
been good.
energized the Democratic side in a really
Powerful way.
tangible, incredible way.
Mm-hmm.
But I can feel that way and still be really pissed at the way Joe Biden has been treated and continues to be treated. And I am and she continues to go out and say things like, well, I wasn't that impressed with his operation. Fuck you. Well, the fact is, Kamala's operation is 3/4 that everybody's so impressed with is 3/4 of Biden's operation.
That's what I was going to say. I mean,
where does she get off doing? You know, what is her issue?
I think her issue
is she pissed off that she's not really at the seat of power anymore? Does she miss being the one everybody goes to? No. Is this an ego thing? Whatever it is, I want it to stop, because in my mind and in everybody's mind who used to love her, she's the one who's doing something to her legacy here.
I think it is a we have to win thing. I think that she acted out of frustration because the president was not seeing things the way she did. And I feel like we can feel all these things simultaneously.
Yeah. Well, to me, it feels like she didn't get her way. And so she's being mean about it. I don't like that. Right? Even if her way was correct. I don't like it.
But she did get her way, so I don't know why that would be the case. Unless she was interested in having some sort of mini, primary crazy outcome.
Well, what I'm hearing is that she didn't want Kamala Harris, and that there's some sort of, there's been some years-long tension and semi-political rivalry between them.
It's the first I've heard of that. I mean, they're both from California, but they've been on different.
Something existed between Feinstein and Pelosi on one side and Kamala Harris on the other. That it was a California politics thing. That it was an older lady versus a younger lady thing. That it was that it was Kamala Harris not paying deference in a way that they thought she should to the older generation. That it was just things like that. This is what I'm hearing from people who have worked in the Senate and the House for years.
The interesting thing about that is, though, that Nancy Pelosi just did that to Biden. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like, maybe she regrets that she didn't do it to Dianne Feinstein. I don't know. Maybe. I just don't know the answer to that. But one way or the other, this is where we are right now. And this is not a terrible, bad place to be, except for.
And I don't think it destroys her legacy. I don't think it negates all the decades of service that she has given, or the fact that she was a great Speaker of the House.
Well, I hope not, because I don't want the last thing people to remember about her to be this, because this is, people that I've been hearing from and following have a very bad taste about this, and some people are saying even, what the fuck? Excuse me, I don't know if I'm the first fuck.
No, you're not. I already threw it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, what the fuck with this book tour? This book tour couldn't wait. This book tour could absolutely wait. Like, what? There is no need for this now. What, does she really need the attention right now?
I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, I don't get that.
I don't either.
She doesn't need the money.
She certainly doesn't need the money. She doesn't need the fame. And, so this whole thing, the combination of the whole thing just feels really gross to me. And I'm so disappointed in her. I'm so disappointed in her. So that's how I feel about Nancy Pelosi right now. And that takes nothing away from how grateful I am for everything she's done. I just think she is fucking it up right now.
Well,
for the classy woman that I thought she was, I think she's being very mean girl and not classy toward an absolute mensch of a gentleman and a brilliant statesman and a man who has saved this country and deserved much better than the way she's treated him.
There is no argument about Joe Biden's status as a president and as a statesman. And I'm feeling like we should have like a Joe Biden segment every week where we just reiterate our appreciation of him,
Well, next week, and in fact, before my Kamala shirt came today, it came today in the mail, I was wearing my Biden Harris shirt, and I had made a decision that I'm going to keep wearing my Biden Harris stuff because Biden is still president, and I don't want people to forget.
Right.
I don't want him to fade into the background.
He's going to be out there campaigning with Kamala next week.
Next week in Maryland.
Oh, you can go see him.
Yeah.
I hope so.
That would be exciting.
I hope so. Where is he going to be in Maryland?
He's going to be, I will tell you, I think, unless I archived it, and then I'll have to go look for it. Because I get so many things, but yeah, I can't find it right now, but
I'll look for it now.
But it's August 15th, and he'll be with Kamala in Maryland, and I'll find it and send it to you.
Okay, cool. I'm looking for it now.
Yeah. So anyway, that's all respect to Joe Biden. And yet I'm super happy about Kamala Harris. And if in fact it was Pelosi's desire to have some kind of wacko open convention in Chicago, I am really glad he shut that down.
Me too, because that would have been terrible.
It would have been awful.
That's not what I'm hearing. I just heard that she wanted a different ticket than the one.
Well, you can't have a different ticket than Kamala unless you have an open convention. So
right. But then maybe she wanted Kamala to pick Josh Shapiro, or that she wanted some,
Yeah, but nobody could. Yeah, I mean, maybe so. But we can talk about that, by the way, because I actually think not picking Josh Shapiro was the right call for a couple of reasons. But
sadly,
the first one was the one I talked about last week, which is that he has his own career trajectory that he's on, and he has his own goals, and being her second guy is not in those goals.
No.
Right? He wants, but
that's
think
not
about
in his
this.
Stars. That's not
He could be her attorney general. I'm just saying that would work. And he wouldn't be a second to her in that position. And holy moly, would he be more of a tiger than the one we've got right now? Right?
Was his speech at the intro of Tim Walz amazing?
It was awesome. I was like on my feet.
Yeah, I was applauding in my living room, all alone, watching it on TV.
And I can see why people say that he has the same cadence as Obama. He does.
Yeah, he does.
He has that same kind of gift to take people up, and he's great. And they're all great speakers in their own right. I mean, Josh Shapiro was awesome. And then Tim Walz,
was
couch joke, way better than I thought he was going to be. And you guys, he didn't know how to use a teleprompter.
I know. Isn't that great?
I didn't know that.
If you watch him speak, I don't think he's using a teleprompter. I told Tim, I said, I think he's like you. He's got an outline in his head and he just goes through it.
Well, he's a teacher. He knows how to do this.
Yeah. And everything. So, because you watch him, like I watched him at the union thing yesterday, there was a teleprompter. He never looked at it. Never. So, I mean, he's just going right out of his head on it, which is, I think, very cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm neither here nor there on teleprompters, but I can certainly understand using one. I think just his teacher background you know, you've been a teacher, so you know, right? You have an outline.
Yeah, and my dad has that ability too, to just kind of like, look through some notes, get a shape of what, the shape of how you want the speech to go, and the points you want to make, and it just happens, when you get up there. And some people are like that. Some people need a teleprompter to keep them on track.
Right.
Because some people have a tendency to wander, or some people need help with pronunciations of things, and the teleprompter is great for that.
Right.
If you have certain words you need help pronouncing, and where you put the emphasis and stuff like that, that's where another way the teleprompter really helps people. Mm-hmm. And it allows people with neurodivergencies, or their brains work differently. So again, you're right. Teleprompter or no, it's not a plus or a minus for people who need the teleprompter.
Right.
As someone who used to type out the scripts for Johnny Carson.
Oh yeah.
We would have to put in the pronunciations of the names and things, right, and parens next to it.
Right, especially names,
Yeah. We weren't using teleprompters. We were using cue cards.
Yeah. Back in the day. Don't they still use cue cards on some of the shows?
I think they do. For things like that, they do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But so it's just interesting to me that he can kind of contemporaneously do this, and he's got such a great dad vibe. I mean, that's the only the only word I can use for it.
Those TikTok videos that he does, the stuff at the fair with his daughter.
Oh my God, he's so proud of his daughter.
Guys, his governor's account on Threads is sending out turkey recipes.
He's got a tater tot hot dish.
I know.
I think for Thanksgiving we should make Tim Walz's tater tot hot dish.
I agree.
I
Vice
think
President Tim Walz
sounds delicious. I think, except how hot. What are we talking about? Like
what?
Casserole.
Yeah. They call them hot dishes in Minnesota, but they're casseroles.
So we're not talking about like with like hot sauce.
No. It's Minnesota.
What do I know from Minnesota?
And I'm not making fun of that. They're just
grew up in Brooklyn.
It's delightful. It's just Minnesota culture.
Yeah, it's just very, real, like no bullshit stuff. It's great.
I love the one where he's with his daughter and he's saying, "Let's go get a corn dog," and she says, "I'm a vegetarian." Let's get a turkey. Let's get the turkey. He goes, "That's not
special."
In Minnesota, it is.
I know. Those are great. And this is why I wanted him, because I thought he would shave all the California elitist edges off of her, what they consider, the coastal elite bullshit, which I don't think she has, but others perceive it that way.
Right.
So, and then she's great. She's been awesome with her. I mean, first of all, there's so many great lines from these rallies, right? Yeah.
Well, like in Michigan, when the protesters tried to shut her down, and he's like, "I'm talking," and then it's like, "Well, if you continue saying that, Trump will win. Do you want Trump to win?
Right, and you want Trump to win, keep saying it. Otherwise, I'm speaking." And then she gave that mom look that we all have had to do once, to our kids.
Not basically just that. I mean, some people were like, I saw that and I got up and I started cleaning my room.
Right?
Because they were like, they haven't just had to give the look, they were on the receiving end of that look.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's and there's people who were comparing her to Hillary Clinton when she did that and saying, don't go in that direction. That's the wrong direction.
You're absolutely go in that direction.
I agree with that. I agree with you. I think that she did the right thing.
She did.
And I think that's, I think that especially since she had met with the hecklers ahead of time.
So one thing, I will correct one thing. She'd met with some that were going to heckle. These hecklers were not those hecklers, but nevertheless.
That shows that there's not adequate communication between these.
Well, they're not necessarily coordinating.
Yeah, they're not coordinating. And she said she would meet with them and listen to them. but it was, she's a, they don't, first of all, there are several facets to this. She's a Black woman up there trying to speak.
Right. Right.
I mean, if I had to place any bets on this, I would guess those were white people.
I bet you're right.
Trying to shout her down. Maybe not. Maybe they're,
They might have been Muslims.
There might have been Muslims, but there are so many white people in this movement, in this anti-Israel movement, that it's astonishing. And so I would be willing to bet that, there's that. And she was the one who saw them. And if she is going to, and even if there were some Muslims or Palestinians among them who were heckling, she, as a Black person in America and having won the nomination, I think has the right to demand to speak without being spoken over.
Agreed.
By anybody, even if it is a fellow group of marginalized people.
Yeah,
they do not have the right to speak over her, especially when she has been gracious enough to meet with the group, the people representing that group beforehand.
Right.
And so yeah, a little respect, and I think that was great. And I don't, if that is going to lose her those votes, then they weren't really going to vote anyway.
Exactly. And listen, one of the things that we're going to have to be aware of is that the trolling online is not just online. That there's, I was saying to Donna before we started this, that the DNC starts next week, and it's in Chicago, and there's going to be protests, and there's a place, basically a place for these guys to be protesting about Gaza. And they don't like that place. They don't like where they've been put, because it's not like front in everybody's face.
Yeah, they're not going to.
But they, that's too bad. This is where they're going to go. And having been to these conventions before, at the venue, you end up going all around it for different reasons and stuff. So it's not like you're not going to see them. You'll see them. And, but
they want to get on camera.
They want to be on camera. But the thing is that I have no confidence that all of these groups are going to be genuinely like they care about Gaza. I mean, this is a place where Russians have been feeding online. I mean, there's just, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but let's be real that, it's in Chicago. And I think one of the reasons that
Chicago is very aware of the history of Democratic conventions there.
Right. In Chicago.
Yeah.
Right. And so the thing that I worry about a little bit is that they're going to, that one of the reasons that Trump's not campaigning or doing any rallies until after the DNC is over is because they're going to try to stir shit up.
Of course they are.
And it's going to be.
They want footage to point to, and they want
exactly
that they can point to after the DNC, after the convention, to say, look at what, So this is, there. I think that, again, I feel like the majority. I don't have any basis in saying this, but what I have seen is that there are so many people in this, pro-Gaza movement. I'm pro-Gaza. I want the civilians, the civilians that exist, such as they are, the civilians that don't follow Hamas into Israel to rape and torture Israelis. You
want to see a peace.
I want them to live
between all the people.
Right. But I think in this country, the people who are part of this movement are like disingenuous and, for the most part, low information. This is a very low information movement.
It's a very complex situation over there that has been building for decades.
And they're making all these
people who think that it's simple to solve the issue. It would have been solved if it was simple.
Right.
It is not simple.
And to that point, earlier this week, Joe Biden sent out a readout that he talked to Egypt's president and to Qatar's president. Mm-hmm. And the three of them then came out with a joint statement, basically putting heavy pressure on Netanyahu and Hamas to stop it and get the parameters of that deal that they've had on the table since April done. Months. And so I know that there's a lot of, and I'm one of those, who's like saying to myself, sure, sure it's going to happen because, somebody always manages to blow up these deals. And for me, it's as long as Netanyahu is in charge, I feel like he wants war. He wants the war to go because he thinks that benefits Trump.
Well, it also benefits him because he, like Trump, is a criminal. Mm-hmm. Who will be on trial.
Yeah, he's going to.
If he is no longer leading the country.
Right.
And he, like Trump, is very unpopular.
Right.
And I don't know a Jewish person in my circle who supports Netanyahu.
Same.
Right. I don't know anybody that I know who's Jewish that supports Netanyahu. And I guess that's the point. It's like what Biden is doing right now is doing some serious presidenting is what he's doing. Yes. And he's putting serious pressure on Netanyahu because Israelis don't want to be at war either. They don't want to be at war. They didn't choose this. Hamas started it, but Bibi is not helping to finish it off here. And he needs to. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I feel like some fever has to break where in Israel, where he's not, doesn't manage to worm his way back in because the country's so divided.
Yeah.
Again, it is complicated.
It is complicated. It's extremely complicated. And that's why, yelling, genocide, whatever, or, screaming about Gaza or whatever, it at a rally for Harris makes almost zero sense.
Also, Harris can't do anything about it now while she is the vice president and is part of this administration's current policy.
Right. But I'm not sure her policy would be much different than Biden's. I think that, honestly, what Biden's doing right now is some masterful statecraft. I mean, he's really, the idea of getting Egypt and Qatar to
sign on to the same statement as,
Right. I mean,
he has been working his heart out. And maybe there are things about our electoral system that need to change.
You think?
There is something really perverse about being in a world as complicated as the one we live in. And the president has to spend 2 years campaigning for re-election when he should be presidenting.
Exactly.
Yes, right now, there's all this energy behind Kamala because she's just the vice president. She can go off and do it while the president is making sure that everything is working.
Right.
Maybe in the future, the politician is the vice president. While the administration is
back in the day, it wasn't all that long ago that surrogates campaigned for candidates. The candidates didn't campaign at all. Right?
That's how it should be.
Right. So
and then maybe the last couple of months, the candidate gets out there, they do a debate, but you have a sitting president. I am happy that Joe Biden is the sitting president and he is presidenting very, very well.
Yeah.
And it's why I want to scream every time someone gets on CNN or MSNBC and talks about Joe Biden's cognitive decline.
Don't
It doesn't get pushback.
Don't fucking say a word to me about Joe Biden's quote unquote decline.
Yeah.
When you stood in a press conference for 90 minutes with a guy who made shit up out of his head about being on a helicopter with Willie Brown, right? And the helicopter nearly crashing. Do not fucking come to me and talk to me about Joe Biden's cognition. Just don't do it.
Especially if the only helicopter he was in with the Brown was Jerry Brown.
Right.
They don't look at them alike.
And the helicopter
they don't look alike, do they?
Right.
No, not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit.
Not even.
But I know the Willie Brown thing, by the way, that he threw out there was because, he wanted to slime her with so that people could say, that Kamala fucked her way to the top, as if somehow having Willie Brown as her boyfriend for as long as he did meant that she won 2 statewide elections by near landslides. I mean, come on with that. Right?
She's a woman. And there's no other reason for a woman.
No other way she could have gotten her job.
Yeah, exactly.
No other way.
Because
there's no way he would have given a job of that stature to a woman unless she fucked him.
Well, that's true.
That's the way he thinks.
Mm-hmm. So that's why he said Willie Brown. I'm sure I'm sure he made the whole thing up just so he could say Willie Brown.
Yeah.
And, throw that out there. And I'm thinking to myself, really, this is like the shit this is why we know that what women say about him is true.
Yeah.
Because he's so disrespectful.
Unfortunately for him, nobody glommed onto that connection. Instead, they glommed onto the lie of the stupid helicopter story. Yeah. For once,
of the what?
We are focusing on that this is a story made out of thin air. Even the New York Times had to write.
Because it is. I mean, I Googled Willie Brown and helicopter crash just to see what. I didn't even use Trump. And Willie Brown was in a helicopter that in the 90s that had an emergency landing, but it was fine. Everybody was fine. The helicopter was fine. But Trump was not in that helicopter.
Well, no, because Willie Brown says that he has never flown in a helicopter with Trump in his life.
Right. So I'm like furiously Googling, trying to find some LA Times story or something about, Trump being in a helicopter with Willie Brown or whatever. And the only thing I could find was the Jerry Brown story.
Right.
And, and that was also not.
No. And Gavin Newsom was in that helicopter too. And he also tests that,
Yeah. So, but I mean, this is what he does. This is why they shouldn't let him do those press conferences.
And yet they do.
And they didn't question him. Nobody there said, really, when was this that you were in the helicopter with Willie Brown?
They are so in his thrall. And I
can't even believe it.
Understand it.
I don't either.
I don't know what spell he has cast over them.
Access.
Over this media.
It's the access whammy. I will give you access. And if you don't do what I want, I won't. And they want that because they really seriously want Trump because he's more interesting to cover.
Yeah.
I mean, it's boring to cover somebody who's actually getting shit done.
Yeah. That's been the problem.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that even happened with Obama, right? And I mean, he won, he went in, he had a great speech at the inaugural, and then he had a whole plate of shit to clean up.
Right.
Because that was when the market crashed and the recession
and everything. 2012 comes and his numbers are way down.
Right. Because he was doing his job and everything. And of course, in the meantime, they're out there hammering him on Obamacare, which because of how it passed, the best parts of it didn't kick in until 2014. Right. And so in 2012, he's out there singing its praises, but nobody's seeing it yet.
Yeah. And
so even though I think they did do the coverage for kids to 26, that went into effect right away. But other than that, none of the good stuff, none of the subsidies, none of that. So he got hammered on that. The right wing just pounded and pounded and pounded. And then when, he managed to get reelected. And then by 2016, it was like Obamacare was baked in. It was a thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is the challenge of these, like you said, these 2-year-long election cycles. Why can't we make them 90 days instead of 2 years?
So much better.
Like everybody would.
Because then the media would be forced to actually cover things that are happening in the country. And they would be forced to actually cover the things that the politicians are doing or not doing.
And what would the consultants get to do?
Exactly. What would the PR people get to do? What would if
it would just be so much better for the country.
Yeah, but who cares about that?
No,
I'm serious. The media cares not a whit.
Oh, absolutely.
Of the country, the media doesn't give a shit about educating the public.
That's part of the genius of what Joe Biden did, though. When he launched her that way, he at whatever point it was that he came to the decision that it was better for her to run than him, and I don't know when that was, but I think it was not an impulsive decision. I think
he thought that out.
I think it's one that he came to, and he said to himself, "How am I going to launch Kamala in a way that will keep the party united and also give her the best chance?" And so he timed it the way he timed it, and all props to him for being a smart guy and figuring out when the best time was to do it.
Yeah, it's been flawless.
It has been. And I'm very excited about Kamala, and all props to Joe Biden forever and ever.
Yeah.
And I really hope, by the way, that he can get something settled with Gaza. And,
that would be nice.
Because Clinton tried to do it. Like every president has tried to do this. Biden probably is the only one with the background and ability to get it done. And I really hope he does, because that would be a great legacy for him.
Exactly. On that very hopeful note, I'd say that is our show for this week.
Yeah.
Join us next time on YouTube, MOMocrats.buzzsprout.com, or on your favorite podcast service such as iTunes, Google, and Amazon Music. And be sure to check our Facebook page for updates. I'm Donna Schwartz Mills with both Karoli and Aliza.
Sorry, it was
saying goodbye for the MOMocrats.
Kamala.
Bye.
Oh, I've got one too.
Yeah, we've got our Kamala shirts.
MOMocrats MOMochat is part of the Demcast family of podcasts.